So it's important to understand the relationship between the width of your wheel and the width of your tire, your overall width. That those two measurements are super important in ensuring that your wheel will tuck into your wheel well and won't have any rubbing issues. So backspace, overall width, two super important things to consider when you do this thing. Also, I want to show you guys just sort of a comparison, side-by-side comparison of these tires. So as I mentioned earlier, we went from a 295 25 22 tire to a 275 25 22 tire. Obviously the 275 is the smaller of the two tires. If you don't know that first three digits of a tire size, the smaller that number, that means that's the narrower the tire, okay? The bigger that number, that means that's the wider the tire, because that number represents the width of the tire. The second number, which is a two-digit number, which will be 25, 35, 45, 50, 60, whatever it ends up being, that is a percentage of the overall width. And the overall width is the first three digits, which that number is in millimeters, okay? So if you take that number and convert that from millimeters to inches, you'll get an idea of what your overall width of your tire is. So remember, the first three digits is the width of the tire in millimeters. The second two digits is the percentage of the sidewall based on that width. So in this case, a 275/25 means that my sidewall, the height of my sidewall, is 25% of the width, which is 275. And I think 275 converted into inches is something like, I think it's 10.6 inches wide. So that means my sidewall is going to be 25%. The height of my sidewall is going to be 25% of that 10.6 inches, which I forget what that number is. It's something like, I don't know, 2 inches maybe. Just shy of 2 inches, if I'm not mistaken, on the sidewall. But you get the idea. I'll put up a little graphic image or something to kind of give you an idea of what it is. I know a lot of you probably know that, but I guarantee there's somebody watching this video who doesn't understand what that means. And then, of course, the last part of that tire size is the dimension of the wheel. So in this case, if it's a 275 25 22, that means it's a 22-inch wheel with a 10.6-inch width and a 2-inch sidewall when you do the math, okay? So I'm gonna turn the camera around. I'm gonna show you these tires side by side so you can get an idea of the difference in the sizes from a 275 to a 295, okay? Okay, guys, so here are the two tires, right? So the tire on the left is our 295/25. The tire on the right is our 275/25. So when you look at them at first glance, they don't really look like they're all that different in size. But to the naked eye, that would appear to be the case, but they are most definitely different in size. So when you do the math, so I'm just gonna take a tape measure here and just lay it across here. So you see that the 295 is roughly, it's a little bit over about 11.5 inches, right? Okay. You look at the 275. Let's see. Let me do it. So if you look at that, let's see. Roughly, I'll get it about right. That's roughly about, I guess, a little bit over 11.5 inches, probably 11.75, give or take. Okay. Now, if you do the same thing with the 275/25, it is. Let's see. Let me get it lined up as best I can. It is roughly 11. Let's see here. Let's get it right. Keep moving on me. Okay, so that's about 11.25. So let me try that again with my other hand. My left hand is. My right hand is kind of weird. I'm a left-handed person, so it's easier to manage with my left hand. So, see if I got that lined up right. Yeah. So about 11.5. So you can see the difference. I'll measure this again just to be fair. This guy here, the 295, is, yeah, it's like 11 3/4, give or take, about 11 3/4. And then this guy here is, let's see, let's rest it there. Yeah, about 11 1/4. So you can definitely see the differences in the width. So obviously the 295 is much wider than the 275, which is the intent. We want the narrower tire on this car so that we don't have the rubbing issues that we were having with the wider tire. Height wise, these are also a little bit off. I think I'm not going to be able to get a good measurement with this tape measure, but I'll post the there's a website out there called tirecomparison.com or something like that. But if you just Google tire comparison chart in Google, it'll come up, and it's really neat because it allows you to drop in the measurements for each tire, and you can compare them side by side, and it'll tell you the height, width, and all of that, so you can determine what's the best fit for your vehicle. But I'll drop the little image in the corner so you can see that, guys. But just wanted to show you the differences in these two tires just quickly, so you can get an understanding of why we chose the 275 over the 295 instead. So here's another side-by-side comparison, right? So you got your 275 25 on the left, and you got your 295 25 here on the right. You can look at these sidewalls. I mean, to the naked eye, they probably don't look like they're very different in height. But if you look really, really close and you squint your eyes, you can notice that this 275 is definitely a smaller sidewall than the 295, right? It's not much. It's maybe like 1/8 of an inch or maybe even 1/4 of an inch difference, but they're definitely different. Looking at it from the side as well. So if you look side by side comparison, one on top of the other, you can kind of see a little bit where the tire on the left is a little shorter than the tire on the right. Not much. It's kind of hard to see that from that angle, but I assure you, it's definitely a shorter tire. Keep in mind also, this 295 has been stretched out. It's been mounted on a rim for probably over a year, whereas this 295 is a fresh, brand new tire that's never been mounted. So some of that accounts for what you're not seeing in the differences as far as the widths are concerned. So once these tires get stretched out and they mounted on these wheels, they do kind of take on a slightly different kind of form or shape, if you will. So, but just looking at that, and that angle there, you can, if you look at this, you can actually see, the 295 kind of poking out above the 275. So like I said, not a significant difference to the naked eye, but in terms of geometry and measurements, it definitely is a difference, and that difference is critical, and it makes all the difference in making sure that these tires and these wheels won't rub when we mount them on our project. So as you can see, I mean, there's not a significant difference to the naked eye when you look at this stuff, but there is a difference when it comes to like the overall geometry and the measurements, and really those little subtle differences are the difference in ensuring that this tire does not rub when we mount this on this car and we tuck the wheels and we finish up the rear suspension on this thing. So and I hope this was helpful and beneficial to somebody out there. There's probably some of you out there that are probably thinking to yourself like, Carlos, look, man, I already know this stuff. You're telling me something that I already know. But for the people out there who don't know this stuff, hopefully you found this helpful.